Welcome to Kevin Navigates. I'm Kevin, and today I'm going to give a quick update. Well, going to try to make it quick on the Department of Education and what's happened last week, and couple little twists that I'm kind of interweave together with this big, beautiful bill that's coming along. Well, anyways, welcome back to the channel, and I hope that you get something out of what I'm going to talk about here today. So, in a time when everything from banking to food is being disrupted, few institutions are under the microscope quite like the U.S. Department of Education. What a dumpster fire this all has become. What started as a campaign promise has escalated into a historic shift in American schooling. It just seems like things just get more and more complicated. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, things were just very simple. I went to a private school up until I entered high school, ninth grade, and I went to school with the same group of kids, and nothing changed. We had no new students. I mean, no students left. It was exactly the same. And it was a Christian private school. We all played sports. It was all boys school, and it was simple. Then I went to public school, high school. So I've seen both sides of this. Now my wife, she's an educator, and she's been in the system. Well, you could say she's been in the system for nearly 40 years because as a kid and college and being in the public school education system, she's been around a lot longer. So we have a lot of opinions that we share back and forth, and this is something that's been really important to me. Raising kids, and we sent our kids to a public school up until last year, and the difference in what we have seen from our kids out of a public school into a private school, which we pay 100% of. And of course, I pay my taxes and everything else. So I'm funding two different school systems. The difference has been night and day. But anyways, it is more than I would call a historic shift in American schooling. If you have the federal oversight and how we fund our kids' futures. Today, we're diving deep into some recent court decisions that was made last week, state responses, and a massive new financial proposal called the Big Beautiful Bill, all of which may lead to a new American education and banking model. We'll see. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, maybe it's a leap, maybe it's not. I just want to make you think. Well, the Department of Education was created, in October 17th of 1979. President Jimmy Carter signed the Department of Education Organization Act into law. Public Law 96-88. Its mission to strengthen the federal commitment to ensuring equal access to education and to improve the quality of education nationally. That sounds fantastic. Sounds great, it had some functions, which included administering federal financial aid, collecting data on America's schools, focusing on key educational issues, and enforcing federal education laws on privacy and civil rights. But over time, the department became bloated, inefficient, and overly politicized. In fact, it didn't take that long. Reagan, in the early 80s, wanted to get rid of it. It was taking power from states and placing too much control in Washington, D.C. I've lived outside of D.C. my whole entire life. My family had a government contracting business, been around it forever. But let's fast forward to 2025. Trump, during his re-election campaign and following his victory, renewed his pledge to dismantling the Department of Education. On March 15th, 2025, Executive Order 14097 was signed, beginning the department's gradual closure process and transfer of key responsibilities to state governments. Now, gradual might be kind because it seemed like it hit all at one time. However, on May 20th of 2025, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit placed a temporary injunction on the executive order. Now, we've seen this happen time and time again. Now, It's citing lack of statutory authority and bypassing congressional oversight. There's a full hearing scheduled for July 17th of 2025. So we're going to see what happens. In the wake of federal disruption, there's states like Florida. They sponsored State Bill 1245, Texas House Bill 5032, Arizona 2088, have passed legislation creating state education autonomy acts. Now, what these bills accelerate the expansion of charter schools, allow full parental control over school choice, and repurpose former federal dollars into state-based voucher systems. Now, it depends on the state in which you live in and how they're going to do this. I did a previous video, which a little bit more detail of the 12 states that are really diving into it and the 12 other states that are looking into it. Now, supporters argue this empowers parents and local communities while removing ideological agendas from the curriculum. Opponents, including the NEA and Democratic governors, argue this move guts public schools and disproportionately hurt low-income and special needs students. Now, here comes a bold legislative counterpart, and it's House Bill 7171. The big, beautiful bill, as they call it, introduced on April 11th, 2025 by Republican Jason Holt of Texas and co-sponsored by 47 House Republicans and 3 Democrats. Now, this bill calls for the creation of federally managed accounts for every child born after January 1, 2026. Now, the money, they're going to fund the money with $1,000 at birth. So let's look into this. So January 1 of 2026, if a child is born in the United States, they are going to open up an account at the Treasury, not at a separate independent financial institution, not a state-sponsored 529 plan, but an account at the federal Treasury. Now, the funds in this account are going to grow tax-free. So, okay, the federal government is putting the money in the Treasury. It's going to grow tax-free. Now, managed portfolios and they're kind of restricted for use on education, home purchases, entrepreneurship. I haven't read the whole thing, but it sounds like it's education and homes and starting businesses. Now, it's modeled after Cory Booker's American Opportunity Accounts Act. Now, this version adds a conservative twist. It's parental control. There's prohibition of non-education spending and potential integration with a national payment system. Let's think about this. National payment system. So I haven't talked much on my channel about the possibility of what's called a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. So what I'm trying to do is I went to this Rebel Capitalist Live, and there's a lot of people from think tanks that we sit and discuss and talk about different topics. One of the topics that we've talked about for in nauseam is about central bank digital currencies, and the push for some central banks to do this, some not to do this. Anyways, this looks like to me that this, and I really hadn't put 2 and 2 together until this. So what this could be basically a backdoor, a long-term plan for a central bank digital currency. Now, if people don't understand what a central bank digital currency is, what a central bank digital currency is basically your accounts are held at, for example, the Treasury Department. Well, this is creating an account at the Treasury. The closing down of the Board of Education. Where does all the money that's owed go? they're talking about moving it to the Treasury. So you start to say, okay, now is the Treasury a bank, or is the Treasury a funding vehicle? Is the Treasury a savings account? What exactly is the Treasury doing? And what is the Federal Reserve and what its role and what is it doing? Which, for people that do or do not know, the Federal Reserve is not federal, it is independent. It is um, it has nothing to do with the government at all. It's its own independent group. Its members of the Federal Reserve are all banks. So to be a member of the Federal Reserve, you you have to have a bank. So how does this all play out? I don't know. I'm just trying to put dots together, but I don't know. They always say that when you smell smoke, you see smoke, there might be fire. Is this fire? I don't know. One of the classic examples of why some people say, well, I don't do anything right or wrong that a central bank digital currency would affect me. Trump has come out and said he's against a CBDC, but maybe he is. Well, if you have this creation where every newborn person in the United States now has an account at the Treasury and it's funded from dollars that came from either the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, whoever. But anyways, the money's housed there. There's nothing. Everything that started out as something. The most permanent thing is a temporary government agency or a temporary fix from the government. So if you're going to create all of these accounts, um, and have a way to collect payments, a national payment system, and you are funding, it's starting to me look like it could possibly be the uh, the blueprint or the framework for leading to a central bank digital currency. Now, some people say, well, getting back to that, well, I don't do anything wrong or anything else. Many governments found out that during COVID, Cerveza, whatever you want to call it, was that uh, one of the big problems that regulators or economists have is that when you print money and you put money out in circulation, there's no way to control where that money goes. So during the time of uh, the COVID, a lot of people they went out and bought cars or houses, or they bought a lot of stuff. A lot of them didn't pay bills. They certainly didn't pay their student loan bills with the money. There's different things and it caused inflation. Said it was going to be transitory. You know, I heard someone just recently say the COVID wars, and I didn't quite understand what he meant by COVID war. And now I'm really starting to understand is that uh, COVID was the black swan, or was the event that happened that really changed the world in many different ways. It changed it in a way in which we are still finding out. Financially, it changed us in ways that I think it's going to take a long time for us to, find how it changed and affect us. One of the major ways in which it changed and affected us was it really showed our shortfalls when it came to our supply chain. And it showed how countries like China basically control certain aspects of that supply chain. And along that kicked off, the way in which banking works and the way in which money flows is out of trust. Now, you take a dollar bill. What is it? It's a piece of paper. It's basically a system of faith and trust, that it's only as good as someone's willing to accept that for it. It's a symbol. It's all it is. It's not like you're handing somebody a shiny gold rock or a shiny silver rock that actually was dug up from the ground. It actually has value to it. And I don't want to sound like a gold or silver bug or whatever you want to say, but you can use silver or gold for tangible things. Silver is used much widely as an industrial metal versus gold. There's more things that you can do with silver than you can with gold. There were times in our history where it would have been beads which people made, or there's all kinds of forms of currency. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But one of the biggest things that I remember when it said war was, there's a lot of protests. And I'm going to use Canada, for example, where the truckers were protesting and stuff. Now, Canada has more of a CBDC than the United States does. So they were able to shut down people's bank accounts, either by facial recognition or tag numbers or whatever it was, and they shut it down. So it's a way to control. It's a control mechanism. So I'm starting to wonder here if one way in which you want to implement a system is you have to implement where everybody is indoctrinated or is part of that system. And this certainly seems like a way to do that. So it's definitely raised my spidey senses, I would say. So anyways, you know, it doesn't sit well with me. Well, anyways, now let's tie it all together. The Department of Education is on life support. States, they're and the families are trying to figure out and gain control. We're getting education funds directly, and now newborns receiving government-backed accounts tied to their Social Security numbers. You know, is this a signal as a full redesign of how education and wealth building are structured in America? Education becomes decentralized, banking becomes centralized, power shifts both away from schools and towards the Treasury. Um, here's some things that you need to watch out for. July 17th of 2025, federal court hearing on the legality of the Department of Education shutdown. This is going to be in the DC court. Late July, Senate hearings on HR 7171, the big, beautiful bill. And then August of 2025, state education plans are due for review by the Department of Education Transition Office. And September 1st of 2025 is the first rollout of state-controlled voucher pilots in 5 states. And then January 1 of 2026 is the launch of the federal newborn savings accounts. And now that's pending this bill passage. Now, what are some of the pros? Parents get choice and power. States get autonomy. Children get early wealth building opportunities, you could say. And then what are the cons? The cons are there's risk of unequal access across the states. What's happening in Florida and Texas may not happen in Maryland or California. There's federal overreach via financial accounts. They can turn them on, turn them off. They want to control where that money goes. And there's possible long-term erosion of public school infrastructure. One of the things that this bill is really trying to do is push charter schools, trade schools, and even not only are they trying to do it on the K through 12 programs, but even in college. This isn't just a policy change. It's a paradigm shift. The way your children learn and how your grandchildren save, this is all being rewritten in real time. Anyways, I hope that you get something out of this. Please subscribe down below. This is a topic that I am going to continue to learn and move forward. My name's Kevin. This is Kevin Navigates, and I'm going to catch you on that next one. Thank you.